Hello, everyone. My name is Bernardo Hernandez, and I'm a general partner with e.ventures. We deploy hundreds of millions of dollars all over the world in trying to find disrupting technologies, and BORJA and the BERS team is a great example of why actually I do love my job. When you find a team of incredible engineers that they're actually disrupting an industry so big and important to our societies in the Western world as payments. I met BORJA and his partners when you were like 20 years old.
Yeah.
I was so impressed by the engineering power they were trying to do that I had no doubt that I had to be part of that somehow. So before we talk about the future of payments, BORJA, why don't you tell us a little about BERS?
Sure.
The problem that you're trying to solve, and why do you have a competitive advantage versus other people?
Well, hello everyone. My name is BORJA, and I'm the CEO of BERS. BERS is a mobile app that allows you to do peer-to-peer payments between persons in Europe. The problem that we are trying to solve basically is how people do they pay themselves. So before our product, there was no so many initiatives available in Europe to do payments in comparison to what we have in the US. In the US, we have Venmo, we have like Square, we have so many systems to avoid cash and do peer-to-peer transactions. But when we came to Europe, we couldn't find anything that was properly working. So we just decided to approach this. Think about that. In order to conduct an electronic transaction here in Europe with the SEPA scheme, you need to provide a 24-digit number. Go to your online banking if you are doing it online, and then type the number, type the recipient data, and do the transaction. We thought that this was like really complex, so we decided to just build BERS.
Okay. Why? I agree with you that like entering a 20-digit code when you want to pay for your lottery tickets or the dinner to your friends.
It's not really convenient.
It's like it's 1973 at best. But there are a lot of people trying to do the same thing. PayPal has been trying for a long time.
Right.
Yap, was around. Now the banking system in Spain has something called Bizum. Why are you better than any of those initiatives?
Well, we think we are better in some things. You were mentioning PayPal. PayPal is a great product. They just launched like in the 90s. And their user experience, in my opinion, it's designed in a way like on the 90s. So it's based on the email, so you need the recipient email in order to conduct a payment. The user experience is not really good. It's really expensive. It's like 3% for like starting a transaction, whereas with BERS it's completely free. So I think we are better in those points. You also mentioned Bizum. Bizum is for you, if you are not familiar with Bizum, Bizum is the Spanish bank's payment system. But the curious thing about Bizum is that it's not a product. So if you try to search Bizum on the App Store, on Google Play, you won't be able to find anything. So Bizum, it's a payment channel. It's on the background only. And it's integrated by each bank in their respective mobile app. So the bad thing about Bizum is that the experience is different depending on each bank. And we know that banks in Spain, they are not the best implementing software. So if you go to Bizum in Bank Sabadell, it's gonna work in one way. If you try Bizum on La Caixa, it's completely different. So it's not a product, and the experience is not uniform. And then they are also planning to charge, where we think that transactions should be completely free.
Yeah. You're in many countries across Europe, I think 27 countries.
Right, yeah, we are in all Europe, all European Union, except Switzerland, where we are still figuring out regulation. So that's our like landscape right now.
And then like you just celebrated with your 1-year anniversary for the app. So in just 1 year, you achieved this impressive growth. How do you go from a group of brilliant engineers in Barcelona to this explosive growth app that has captured the attention of large VCs in Europe and the US?
I think it's just like a matter of like hard working first, be like really enthusiastic, sorry, about your work, and then just like surround yourself of great people. Like try to find the best people available and try to work with them. I think those are the key. Obviously, I mean, you need to know a little bit about payments, figure out regulation, get funding, but that's common for all these startups. So
It's Barcelona, a great place to start a company that wants to dominate, at least Europe, or the 27 countries in Europe?
well, Barcelona and Spain, I think it's not the friendliest country to start a company, but when it comes to talent and to like the environment, I think it's really good. So we were able to find like really amazing talent at the city.
And it's also very affordable, isn't it?
It is. We were back in San Francisco starting this project, and salaries there are like crazy. Here you can hire like 3 engineers for the cost of a single one in San Francisco. So that's also a good advantage.
We are in a place called 4 years from now. Where do you see Verse 4 years from now?
Good question. So I see Verse in a dominant position when it comes to peer-to-peer payments. I see Verse installed in many mobile phones in millennials when they want to do a peer-to-peer transaction. I think they're gonna think in Verse and do the transaction in Verse. And in 4 years, I see Verse in other countries. We are thinking in Latin America, which is a really interesting country to start a product like this. So hopefully in 4 years, we'll figure out everything to just launch the product.
So
in
dominance
Latin
in Europe and then Latin America maybe.
Yeah.
Something that I really liked about them when I met them and they deliver on their promise is how ambitious they are. Something very unique about the generation that BORJA represents of entrepreneurs coming here from Spain is that not only they have the ambition of creating something really big that can be in many countries in Europe and Latin America, but they actually have enough competitive advantage from a technology and business and execution point of view to actually deliver on their promise, and they're doing so far. Let's talk about the industry a little bit. I'm still surprised that in 2017 I'm still carrying 8 plastic cards with a magnetic bind on my wallet. Why, with so much disruption in many fields, payments are still, lacking this, main disruption that we've seen in many other industries?
So you were speaking about car payments. Car payments are really popular, and I think because mainly historical reasons. So when cars were created back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, it was like a great instrument. It was a card with some numbers that you could go to any merchant, give those numbers, like in a really manual way, and then they will just charge to your account whatever amount you spend it. Then banks, what they did is they kept like the same reality, the same product, but they just like updated the technology. So we just came from like embossed cards to magnetic cards, then to chip and pin, then to contactless, and banks seem like really proud of all these products, and I think it's the same reality. It's just a card. It works the same way as back in the 50s or the 60s. So I think we are still using cards because banks, they do not innovate, and whatever they think, it's just trying to update the technology to the next technology, but not change the idea behind and the idea on the background of a certain product, in this case a card. So what we are doing at Verse is saying, hey, forget about the cards, let's create a new channel, something different, a completely different experience to conduct a payment, and just try to innovate and change the existing reality. And then another thing about cars that make them really difficult to handle, in my opinion, is that they look real-time, but they are not real-time. So when you pay with a debit card, for example, you get your money discounted from your account immediately, but it is not true. In Verse, we do a lot of processes with like reconciliation of cards and car payments, and it's not real-time at all. So the payment is done 2 or 3 days later. So the merchant is not receiving the money instantly. And I think this is something to worry about this year. I mean,
so it's easy of use, immediacy, core pain points that traditional banks they're only improving marginally, but not at the core
Right.
of the problem in itself. But like if you think about it, they're positioned really well. They're perfectly positioned to solve this problem. They have the users, they have 30, 40 million, account holders. They have, millions in marketing budgets. They have huge IT. What is stopping them from doing exactly what you're doing? Instead of letting you, gain hundreds of thousands of users into your platform and moving away from these traditional banking platforms.
So it looks like being really big or having a lot of money or having a lot of funded accounts, it's an advantage on this space. I don't think so. So banks, they are like huge organizations with thousands of people, in many cases with different interests inside the same organization. So it's really hard for them to build new products and to move on. They are just, and another thing is that banks are not tech companies, and this was something that I discovered after working so many years with payments. So when I was a kid, I was thinking in banks as like really complex organizations with like a lot of tech inside, but when you just tap into them and see how they work, it's really manual. There's thousands of people there, but there's not really so many technology.
Give us a couple of specific examples on how something very technical can be critical for what you do. What is behind BERS that is highly technical, that is hard for a bank to replicate?
So, for example, the way we onboard customers, so banks, they have like really manual onboarding procedures with like paperwork, signatures. We onboard our customers like in a really different way. It's just like open your app, if you log in with Facebook, which is a new feature that we are launching like in a few weeks, it's going to be just one click and you are in. You have an account, you have a payment system available. So that's one example. Another example is, if you want something more technical, how they handle fraud. So they handle fraud like completely manual. So if you have a transaction in your bank account that is not yours, you just go to your bank, claim, and you will get a human attending to your claim. It will be like a completely manual procedure to do the chargeback, while we are handling chargeback like in a complete automatic way. So it's just a matter of like trying to automate processes. And I think banks, they are still doing many, many things manually with thousands of people.
How do you use the Bitcoin technology? That's probably another...
Yes, so we started, our background is really Bitcoin focused. We started like 2 previous Bitcoin companies before. And like especially our CTO is really knowledgeable in the Bitcoin space. So we are not using Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think it's a great idea, it's a great product and a great experiment. But we are using the technology behind Bitcoin. So it's called the blockchain. And we are using the blockchain basically as a ledger. So the blockchain gives you, I think, 2 main advantages. It gives you an advantage in a decentralized environment where you have like multiple organizations that they need to transfer some value, money, anything that can be countable, but they do not trust each other. So I think that's a really good case for the blockchain. It's not our use case. And then the other use case is ledger. So you need to keep track of an asset, in this case money, and we are keeping track of so many different currencies. And you need it like in a really precise way. You need it like to be coherent at the same time. So you don't want to like incur in double spends or like negative balances. So I think it's a great tool for doing that. So as a backend, well, we've saved like a lot of like development hours just by using the blockchain.
And then, traditional banks don't do that for now. They're talking a lot about doing it, but it's probably going to take them like a few years before they can do something that you've done in a couple of months.
It's so hard for them. I understand them. It's so hard for them to like migrate everything from like their legacy systems. They have the customer information in so many parts, in so many servers. So it's a really complex job too.
And for a fraction of the cost. So you're doing whatever they do with like millions. You do.
Yeah,
for like
we are a team of 19, I think, and around 12 are engineers. So.
Yeah, which is incredible. But like, if I talk to a traditional bank, they're going to say, okay, fine, but these guys, they're not very secure. There's a lot of risk, fraud. The Bank of Spain or the European commission are going to come and shut them down in a couple of months. Is that true?
So yes, so that's the idea that they have of us, but I think we are more secure than them. In fact, by developing our product, we found so many security bugs on the banks, on our partner banks, because in order to do payments, we still need to be integrated at some point with some banks. And in the development process, we found like critical bugs that we've reported to them. So I think they are not in the best position right now.
So you're even helping them by competing with them.
I mean, it's not our job, but when you find something like a security bug, we just report to them.
Yeah, but it's not only banks. Like Google, I was at Google when we did Google Checkout. After 6 months, we have to close it down because we spent almost $500 million on getting nowhere. And then Google Wallet, and then Facebook has tried, and Apple Pay is spending a lot of money trying to move on. Like even the technology incumbents, they're trying to tap into this space. They're not being successful. So why Verse is moving the needle when not even the technology incumbents can get into?
So it looks like Google has all the ingredients to be successful at the payments space. They have a lot of money. They have like an amazing development team. They have a lot of users. But they tried, and you were at Google, in fact, when they were trying Google Wallet and Google Checkout, and it didn't work. It didn't work as many other products like, I don't know, like Google Videos, and they ended up like buying YouTube. It didn't work like Google, the social network. What was the name? Google Plus, because it was like we had Facebook. So I think it's not only having the right ingredients, which Google, I think that they have them, but it's more about finding the killer feature, finding the really good use case to build a product that engage people. And I think at Verse, we engage our users, and that's what is driving growth at our company.
What are those killer features that it's allowing you to have this exponential growth that hasn't worked for Google or Facebook or Apple?
So I think the user experience, it's really important. We've been working with our designer to clean and to polish our user experience like as much as we can, and we are like improving it in a daily basis. And then also the utility that we are offering, so we are allowing people to do transfers in real time to anyone in Europe and for free. So I think that's another killer feature itself.
Yeah. No, it's similar to, people at Telefonica was wondering why WhatsApp was so successful, and then, WhatsApp had this like killer feature of being cross-platform for free. It's very simple.
You sometimes have these killer features that even when your competence tries to replicate, they don't finally like catch you. Yeah,
because they have P&Ls that they need to preserve most of the time, and it's hard to do that. Like talking about the future, what do you think are your challenges as a fintech startup? Looking into the future. You had an incredible start. You got the attention of a lot of people. You created a 20 employee company. It's looking really good. But what are the challenges, to become the Venmo of Europe?
So I think right now our volume, even that in comparison to other products, is quite big. If you compare it to PayPal or to banks' volume, it's still nothing. So we need to try to engage more and more users and try to improve the number of operations that they do in a daily basis. So people, they are still doing some cash operations because maybe they do not know our product or they are not familiar with technology. So I think we have the right tool just to engage all these users. So this is something that we need to work on. And then international expansion, it's really hard, like from a company management perspective. So our operations are based here in Barcelona, in Spain, and we are operating in 27 countries. But some of them, like Southern European countries, are working better. But we are still trying to catch up other products in Northern European countries. So I think we're going to need to start creating a small organization in each country to try to pursue this, get a more a share of the market.
You're going to be playing in the big league, at a very early age. There's a lot of elements within the technology of fintech. The virtual currencies, blockchain you were talking about a minute ago, NFC, you know, the challenge of micropayments, you know, integration with merchants. Out of this, you know, complexity of multiple technologies or technical challenges, you know, what is your picking order in your roadmap? What is the one that you're gonna do better first within Verse?
So well, with a historical, so I'm gonna tell you what was like harder for us at some points of our history, and then in the future. So when we started, the more complex thing to us was to recruit talent. So I remember when we were like 3 people at the office and we had to bring more people, and it was like so hard, especially if we didn't have experience in like managing teams and hiring. This was something really, really hard. Then to solve regulation. Regulation for a startup, especially in the fintech space, it's something to worry about. We had to invest so many hours in figuring out regulation, requesting a license, be compliant with every single thing, like PCI, like anti-money laundering.
Can only imagine the face of those lawyers in the Banco de España.
Wow.
Like with like 320-year-old guys were like applying for a license.
It was so hard to make them understand what we were doing, because Bank of Spain is really familiar with like traditional remittances companies, banks, but not with fintechs. So it was a hard time figuring out regulation. Then the next thing was to grow. It was hard to grow, spend like our first dollars in marketing. That was like a hard point. And I think from now on in the future, I think, yeah, growth is going to be, I mean, it's my number one worry. Well, not worry, but thing to care about in the company. How do we scale and how do we engage new users?
Okay. I think we have a couple of minutes for questions in the audience. So if anyone wants to, has a specific question for Borja, all those minds, anyone? There's one over there. Another one here.
The question is, what is your monetization model?
Yeah, so we think that transactions, peer-to-peer transactions, should be free, but that we should start conducting peer-to-merchant transactions. So right now in our product, you can only send money to other persons, to other people, but you cannot do payments in marketplaces or stores, and it's something that we want to launch. So once we launch these new features of like offering people to pay in merchants, we're going to offer the merchant so many services related to the transaction. So not only the transaction, which is giving the money to the merchant, but also information about what kind of user was doing that transaction, recurrency, so if it's a first-time user or not a first-time user, etc. And then we plan to charge, but always to the merchant, never to the customer. That's the way we plan to do monetization. And by the way, we are doing some monetization right now with FX, because we have multiple currencies. We allow our users to do payments between different currencies, and we charge a small fee on the FX margin. But I think it's not going to be like really significant in the future, as most of our operations are local, are country by country. So yeah, it's the Verse checkout to merchants, what is going to drive revenue to the company. Thank you.
There's another question down here.
Hello. So as the founder of the company, could you please tell us some hard conflicts you found? And also, because you said that you changed from Bitcoin to another kind of product, so how this situation affect the team and the way you work and the way you understand each other?
So in our case, when we were like pivoting, we only were like the founding team, so 3 people. So like in that example, it was not really hard to manage changes, and as they were like really obvious that the current product was not scalable. So our first pivot was from manufacturing Bitcoin ATMs to something that would scale more. That was like the first pivot that we did, and it was like really easy to figure out. I mean, manufacturing 130 kilogram machines is not something that you can scale easily. Then what we did back in 2015 is try to just build software that could be installed in bank ATMs. And we did, during at Boost, we were at Boost PC, which is an accelerator in San Francisco. And we were able to install this software in around 15,000 ATMs in Spain. So we just scaled a company from 30 ATMs to like 15,000 ATMs. So the issue at that point was that we were conducting so many transactions that the regulator came to us saying, what are you doing? I mean, you are managing cash with ATMs, you are managing Bitcoin. So they got like so scared that they just shut down everything. But we were able to fundraise during that time. So at that point, we just sit down on the team and say, okay, the current product that we built was like amazing. We had so many transactions, but we need to figure out regulation. And at that point, we pivot from that product to finally a peer-to-peer app and in euros, not using Bitcoin or any virtual currency. And then we got some money, we applied to the like a license and all the like regulation steps. And so those were like the pivoting points in our company history.
Perfect. With that question, I think we run out of time. Not out of money. We always have Verse, so if you need money here today, just download Verse. Thank you, Borja, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you.